Good morning. Welcome to another day in this outfit. This has been such a long walk I've been on. This footage is probably, I don't know if the sound's better, but probably way more steady than the iPhone stuff. That was getting a little ridiculous. I've been talking a lot with Saw about ancestor simulators, and the idea of the world being generated, because obviously if computers continue to prove, at some point they will be indistinguishable from reality, and as Elon Musk likes to say, there is the probability that if it is going to happen, it probably has happened. And it's just it's one of those things where it's a crazy spiral to get into, to start thinking about what if this world is simulated, because then you start thinking about, there's so many directions you can go with this, but the one that is fascinating to me is, why is this world simulated? Because if you think about video games, right, let's use Minecraft, because that's a randomly generated game. When you start up a new map of Minecraft, it starts generating the world, right? So let's say this world has been generated in the same way. It uses math and rules in some computer to generate physics to match or be similar to some other reality, or maybe it's completely random. Who knows? So then, if it's randomly generated, it could be, in Minecraft, right, the generation happens so quickly, unless you're like breaking the game to fly ahead and see the generation happen, you don't even see it. So theoretically, billions of years might be generated instantly in order to get to a specific point. Say someone's wanting to, in the ancestor simulator version, you're wanting to see what happened during World War I. So you generate all of reality up to World War I, but all of that generation happens in an instant. And then someone goes in and looks around to see who was where and what they were doing, right? Then you can make the most perfect history book. In fact, you don't even make a history book. You can just have in classes, kids get to go fly in and see history up to that point. So if that's the case, assuming it takes a huge amount of resources to generate such a world, people have talked about using an entire sun's power to power a computer and things like that. I don't know about any of that. I think there's a lot of weird little pieces in there of people looking forward on what technology is going to be based on what technology is right now. So what a computer needs to be in order to generate a physically real world is probably not exactly what people describe it as now. But so anyway, if that's happening, what happens as soon as reality reaches that moment? So the kid is in the classroom, he goes and watches World War I. They just shut off the server after that. So are we waiting for a moment in history that some kid is supposed to go to, or not kid, scientist, whatever, who knows what is generating this world, and what level of technological evolution is. If it's very early, it's just probably scientists doing it, and then if it's much later, it's probably more consumer grade, of either in classrooms or someone wanting to play a game, right? And you get into like some really crazy stuff like that. Like, we could be literally waiting for a moment that somebody is wanting to go see. They're going to pop in, check it out, turn off the server, right? So our reality stops existing as soon as that thing happens. Obviously not scary or anything, because you just stop existing. Unless that's scary to you. Shouldn't be. You don't get to be upset when you don't exist. Okay. So then there's the other pieces of this thing. I mean, so many pieces. Sorry, I'm geeking hard on this story. So then imagine that whoever's generating the world is not generating the world to look at us. They're generating the world to look at, not the world, the universe. They're generating the universe to look at a planet we are completely unaware of in a galaxy we don't even know about. And something that they are waiting to do, or a game they are waiting to play on that planet. Maybe that planet has some crazy biological cyborg war that happens in 3 days from now, our time, and the kids pop in, they play cyborg war, generated completely realistically. One of them dies in the cyborg war, a goopy cyborg thing, and the other kid is like, yay, I win, reset the game, let's play again. So then 3 days from now, our world stops existing. And that could be, to me, this is like weird biological wanting to survive stuff. It's less scary to me if this is a replication of the world that created it, right? So if they're using the same math to generate the world that was the original world, it means that we exist somewhere else, and wherever the server shuts off, our timeline continued in whatever the base reality is. So you don't really die somewhere else. It's very confusing. And that's interesting. But then what if the world is generated randomly? There's some slight piece of math or code.
Have a good day today.
Excuse me. Some piece that's random. And so every time the server starts, it's a new world. So in no other generated worlds do we exist. So then we're suddenly just stopping existing in all realities. So that's all crazy stuff. I can keep going with that, but there's a whole other aspect that's hard to think about. Not hard to think about, wild to think about. So then you get into thoughts about things like, and Rick and Morty did actually they've done a couple things about stuff pertaining to this, but the realities within realities. So if we eventually, so say we're a generated reality, and you don't know how many layers deep it is, and I'll explain why. Because if we're eventually going to get to the point where we can generate our own reality in an ancestor simulator, or simulator, however you want to say it, if that's going to happen, then we're generating realities within a generated reality, right? And if that's inevitable here, it's been inevitable in every reality that's ever generated realities. And in fact, most likely, multiple realities have been generated in every reality, because it's this giant infinite universe, and just off pure math, it's highly unlikely there aren't other intelligent beings in that infinite expanse. So most likely there's multiple intelligences making multiple generated realities within every generated reality. Not to mention if the technology gets advanced enough for individuals to be able to generate realities for the gamification piece that I was talking about before. I'm realizing I can't see myself, so I might be completely blown out since the sun's behind me. Right up there, you know? But I don't know. So anyway, I don't need to keep going with this, but the point is the idea of generating worlds is, and it's something I didn't think about really until Elon Musk's thing. Obviously, I think that's when a lot of people started thinking about it. But once you get into it, it's one of those things that if you spend any time thinking about the different perspectives you can look at that thing, the amount of messing with your head you will get into is ridiculous, and it just goes forever because it's basically creating a loop of crazy ideas. So anyway, that's it for that video. I might shoot one more today, depending on how much longer I decide to go for my walk, but I'll see you tomorrow.